Gute Woche, Kvoid, Yedidei Nafshi, Harabonim, Hagaonim. I walked into this room and I was moved and inspired to see a packed Beis Medrash. And the only reason you all came together tonight could be no other, just for Chizuk. And it is an inspiration. So this week we learned Parshas Vayakel, and this coming week is Parshas Pekudei, and it is the climax and the end of Chumash Shemois. Chumash Shemois is divided into 3 sections. First 4 Parshios deal directly with the Golas Mitzrayim and Yetzias Mitzrayim. Shemois Ve'eru, Boi B'Shalach. And in B'Shalach we already sung Shira Sayam. 2 Parshios, Yisrael Mishpotim, Ma'amad Har Sinai, and Kabbalah Torah. And the biggest part, 5 Parshios, is Mishkan V'Kelov. The Ramban explains the entire Sefer is defined as Sefer HaGolus V'HaGeula. And then the Ramban asks, but only a very short and a very small part of Chumash Shemois deals with Golus and Geula. The Ramban explains that Geula, to us, redemption, is not only a function of personal freedom and not even national sovereignty. Ad asher al malas avoisom yashuvun. It is only when we achieve the heights of our avois that we are defined as Geul, and that is Shleimus HaGeula. So it is only when we were Zeiche to Ashros Shechina in the Mishkan that made us an Am Geul, and that is why the entire Sefer is defined Sefer HaGolus VaHaGeula. So we are what we are what we should be, only when we have Ashros Shechina. Do we have Ashros Shechina Bizman Hazeh? Of course we do. Otherwise, we cannot be. But the Knesset about the Midrash Shebebavel, the Gemara says at the end of Kiddushin, every Jewish home could be and should be and must be a Mikdash Ma'at. Soito Daf Yud Zayin, Ish ve'ishu shezachu Shechina Shruya Beineihem. Rashi Shabbos Daf Nun Heyo Medbeis Ad Shelo Yivno Oyal Moyed Hoisu Ashchina Shoyre Ba'ohalei Tzadiki. The Shechina was here even before Binyan Beis HaMikdash, and it is here after Churban Beis HaMikdash. Every Jewish home that is founded on Kedusha, on Tahara, on Torah, on Mitzvah is a Mikdash Ma'at. The entire avodah of Beis HaMikdash centers around Shorish Kelim. All the others were supplementary. Menorah, Mizbeach, and Shulchan. There were 2 Mizbeachos, Pnimi and Chitzon. But it's all about Menorah, Mizbeach, and Shulchan. Shloshet Eile Keneged Ma. Torah, Avodah, and Gimeles Choson. My time is extremely limited because I have 2 more shiurim tonight, and I have a very busy Motzei Shabbos. So I won't go into great details, but there are so many Mamorah Chazal that connect the Menorah with Torah. Kiner Mitzvah v'Torah. And the Mizbach is definitely have to do with Avodah. Tfilas Keneged Karbonos Tiknum is what we learn in Brochas Chavav. And Mizbach HaKtoros, Tikoin Tfilosi, Ktoros Lefonecho, Masas Kapai, Minchas Orav. And the Shulchan Mechaper Kemizbeach is the Gemara Zvochem and a Chagigi Chav Zayin. Shulchan is Achnos Esorchem. So Avodas HaKoyanim is Menorah, Mizbeach, Shulchan, Torah, Avodah Chesed. And in every Mikdash Ma'at, who are the Koyanim? Husband and wife. And their children, they are the Koyanim in a Beis Mikdash Ma'at. What do we learn from Avodas HaLeviim? There could be no Beis Mikdash without Leviim. It's not only about the Koyanim. We have something to learn from Avodas HaLeviim. The Leviim had two jobs, two functions. Shoyarim and Mishoyarim. And to me it is clear, every Jewish home needs Shoyarim and Mishoyarim. We need gatekeepers. We need moats around our homes. We need to build walls. And we need somebody to act as a gatekeeper. We need to be careful who comes in and who stays out. More important, what comes in and what stays out. It is essential. Can it be different? We cannot let everything that's out there in this Olam Ofel, Olam Shofel, to come to our homes. We need shoyarim. We need gatekeepers, and that was Avodas HaLeviim. B'chof alaf mekoymois HaLeviim mishamrim, begimel koymois HaKoyanim mishamrim. We learned the sugya of Shmiras HaMikdash and Tomid and Midos twice in Shas, in Shisha Sidra Mishnah. But we also need Mishoyarim. We learn from history, moats and gates were never enough. Never enough to keep people in or to keep them out. Moats could be breached. You could dig tunnels over the moats. You could scale. You could dig tunnels under. You could scale over. We need Mishoyarim. So if we really want our homes to be Mikdashei Ma'at, it is not enough Torah Avodah Gemilas Chasodim. It is not enough to have Koyanim. We need Avodas HaLeviim as well. We need Shoyarim and we need Mishoyarim. When kids aren't happy at home, they always will find a way to escape, and they always will find a way to get out of those walls. So these are two Yesodos that are so important. Simchas HaTorah and Simchas HaMitzvah. And bringing up children with simcha and with fulfillment and with happiness. The home of a Ben Torah needs to be the happiest home in the world. There is no reason it should not be the happiest home in the world. Ashreinu ma toiv cholkeinu. And we need our children to experience and to share Simchas HaTorah and Simchas HaMitzvah. But we need Shoyarim as well. And we need to watch over the gates. And we need the tools to know what comes in and what stays out. Halavai, we will have the ability to totally detach ourselves from the internet. But I know the internet is here, and it's here to stay. And I don't think it's right to pretend. Many of us pretend and prefer only to bash the internet and stick our heads in the sand like it is said that ostriches do. They actually don't. Even an ostrich has enough brains not to stick its head in the sand and make believe nobody sees. It's here, and it's here to stay. And therefore we need to know how a Ben Torah and how a Yiddish shtiv at a Jewish home could deal with the situation. And I once again say, if a person could totally stay away from this dangerous tool, Asher v'ashrei chelko. He is far safer, his kids are safer, his home are safer. But for many of us, that is no longer an option. We need it for parnasa. We need it for many different things. There's a huge volume of Arbotas Torah going on in the internet. Even though I always tell people, thousands, tens of thousands of people listen to my shiurim on the internet. And I say, nothing compares to a Beis Medrash. I hear from some Daf Yomi Magidishum that they have a smaller crowd because there are great shiurim online. Nothing compares to sitting in a Beis Medrash with a Magachir, Dibuk Chaverim and Pilpel al Talmidim. Nothing compares to opening a Gemara and feeling, having the touch of a Gemara, the smell of a Gemara. It's not the same with the screen, but it is what it is, and it's not going away. And therefore, as responsible people, as responsible parents, as responsible Rabbonim, we need to speak to our communities what chance do we have in raising Elach Ikindalach in the age of the internet. It is so important to filter. So the internet is devastating on many levels. The greatest sakana is content. And some of the content which is so easily available online with one click. Years ago, a boy or a girl growing up in a frum home would have 1,000 obstacles till he could be exposed to the level of schmutz, of dirt, that today is accessible just in a split second, a click of your finger. And if young boys, yeshiva boys, or even younger light are exposed to pornography or tikfira, it is almost kol boyeyu lo yashuven v'lo yasigu orchos chaim. Kol boyeyu lo yashuven v'lo yasigu orchos chaim. Just 2 weeks ago, a young yeshiva boy was sitting at my table and crying with the Moesh Sholish. He was a star, one of the best boys in yeshiva, and he was exposed to pornography. And it destroyed him, and he says, I can't keep away. And I sent him to a therapist. It is devastating. And the same with kfira. Not every yeshiva bocher is the Rambam, is the Moire Nevochim, that he could deal with questions. Kfira minus, once again, sometimes it's sreifes neshama v'guf kaim. And as parents, and not only as parents, as individuals, it's not only about our kids, it's about us as well. We need to recognize the danger. It is devastating, and you need to do everything you can to prevent yourself, even more so your children, from exposure. I don't want to go into halachic discussion. Maybe my dear Talmud Rabbi Dershowitz did before I came in. The Gemara in Bava Basra, Iske Darka Achrina, maybe even Al Pi Halacha. Having access unfiltered to the internet is like, I think it's far worse than Noshe Moindes Ala Kvisa, Misli Darka Achrina. Probably Al Pi Halacha would be an Isser. But I'm not here to give a halachic shiur, just plead to your hearts and to your minds to understand how dangerous this is. Now, even if you filter the worst material, the worst content, but you're exposed to a non-Jewish culture, to an alien culture, to a secular culture, even if you're just watching the news or watching comedies and shtusim and leitzanes, you're exposed to an alien culture. And it is far worse than listening to the radio. The visual effect is far more powerful than anything you could just hear. So some people think, okay, I filtered, I can't see any terrible things, but access even to stuff that seems part of it, just watching the news, some comedies here and there, but it's an alien culture. It destroys your tmimus. It destroys your yiras shamayim. It destroys every semblance of kedusha, of precious. And even what is part of it, to them, is far from tznius to us. So even if you filter out the worst content, that is not enough. Level number 3, bitul Torah. The average youngster that has a smartphone all the surveys, our Kaveh spends 3-4 hours a day with a smartphone. In modern Orthodox communities, and it's very difficult to define who is Haredi and who is modern Orthodox, but there are many youngsters that daven 3 times a day with minyan. They wear the tzitzis outside. They even learn, and they use their smartphones on Shabbos because it's an addiction, and they can't stay away. They can't stay away. And this is such a bitul zman and bitul Torah. Hours a day, people are addicted to their phones. And last but not least important, I hear from teachers in seminars, from Ramim in American yeshivas, it's difficult to say a shir to kids that use their smartphones. Their attention span is destroyed. They cannot listen. They cannot learn. They cannot concentrate. They cannot keep attention for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes. And I hear from a Giddush shir, it's impossible to give a shir to these kids. Their thoughts stray. They have no concentration. And I hear this all the time. So what I want to explain to all these wonderful young Bnei Torah that came together here tonight, the biggest danger is exposure. Exposure to kfira, to minas, to arayas, but it's not the only danger. It's not the only danger. The exposure to culture, which is so far from what we want to give our children. Tmimis, tahara, some naivety, kedusha. There is no kedusha on the internet, regardless of what you see there. So this is damaging in so many different ways. So the message I want to convey is, if you could keep away from exposure to the internet and you don't need your smartphone, that is best. That should be #1 priority. Ashrei loi v'ashrei chelkai. If you can, and many people can't, be aware. Be aware of the danger. Don't expose your children. Don't let them waste their time and spend their time online. Don't expose them to smartphones, and even for your own benefit. Mema'atin b'simcha, we are in a period of marben b'simcha. The smaller the better. The less the better. And that should be the big cloud if you need to be exposed to the internet. And the fact that so many young Galite came together tonight, just with one goal and one purpose and one matorah, just to be meschazik, is very, very encouraging. And my bracha to all of you. You should have nachas the kedusha from your children. And many times at simchas I say, why do we say nachas the kedusha? Because one of alufei Esav was nachas. So it's not that type of nachas we want. We have our own thought of what nachas is about. So I wish you all heilige Yiddish nachas. We should all have nachas the kedusha. We do the right thing. And if there's anything I can do to help this great endeavor, I am with you. And I wish you all nachas the kedusha and the rabbonim yedidei nafshi sitting on my right and my left. We should have tremendous siyata d'shmaya in teaching, in learning. And we should be zoicha as we near the end of Chumash Shemos. We should once again be zoicha. Kodesh Baruch Hu yaracham al amoy. We should be zoicha to be as Goel Tzedek. And to quote the Lashon of Rashi in Sukkah Mem Aleph, Ze habayis hashlishi she'onu mitzapem loi, banui v'meshuchel al yered eish min hashumayim b'mheiro v'yomeinu omein hagutavot.